Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today again. This is like a double or triple upload day again, but I just can't get enough of you guys in Clash Royale, and I am so pumped for this challenge. I'm going to share a 20-win deck today for you guys with no legendary cards. First off, let's take a deep breath. Okay, how'd you guys do so far? I mean, I'm sure some of you guys are raging hard because there's nothing worse than being at like 10 or 15 or even more wins and then getting BM by somebody and losing and feeling like you have to start over at 0. Man, this can be a total rage-inducing challenge. However, I'm really having a lot of fun with it. So, Crown Championship Challenge on my... I've only tried once so far. On my very first try, I went 16-1. 16-1, I unlocked my legendary chest, I got a log. And then the next 2 battles, I lost back-to-back. Man, I was so upset just because of stupid mistakes, too. I was using that Golem Lumberjack deck that I shared a couple videos ago. But I want to know, you guys, I'm actually, if you're watching this right now, if you're on my notification squad in the first 2 hours, I'm sitting at the airport in Iceland on a layover heading to Supercell headquarters in Helsinki, so I have nothing but time to engage with you guys and give you advice on any decks or any questions you may have in the comments. So for about an hour and a half or so after this video goes live, I'll be there with you guys kind of like in a real-time chat. I'll get to as many comments as I possibly can. But today, I wanted to share this 20-win deck by TobiSpiritHawk. Now, it's a 4 musketeer deck, 3 musketeers and the regular musketeers. It's a really cool deck, and the reason I wanted to share it with you guys is because it has no legendary cards. I know that not all my audience has every single legendary card, and it's important to me. You guys know, let's be honest here, I share a lot of pro decks, and a lot of them are legendary heavy, but I always try at least once a week to bring free-to-play friendly decks, either with 1 or no legendary cards. That's exactly what we're going to do today. So we're starting right now with TobiSpiritHawk. By the way, Toby, amazing guy, YouTuber, Twitch, German though, so you'll have to just watch the gameplay. He does speak a little bit of English though as well. I'll include the links to all his information in the description below. But this is the deck. This is his 20th win with this deck. He went 20-1 with this deck right here. It's really solid, guys, even though there are no legendary cards. In my opinion, this would be the best no legendary card deck to try out if you want to try to get that 20 wins, or maybe even just get the 14 wins and unlock your legendary chest. If you're interested in more in-depth tips, make sure you watch my previous video on just basic tips to kind of walk into the arena with when you're trying this challenge. So let's talk about this deck. It has 2 of the recently buffed cards, the Bats and the Mini PEKKA. And if you're looking for a more interesting legendary heavy deck, well, the guy that Toby's playing right here, Superbot, is also a really good player. And obviously, this is also his 20th loss. It's not a win because he loses to Toby here. Spoiler alert. But if you're looking for a good Dark Prince deck, go with Superbot's deck. It obviously got him to the 20th match. We don't know if he ended up losing after this or if he had a couple losses to spare. However, let's talk about the deck that we're here to cover today. It is this 4 musketeer deck, and it's really solid. It reminds me of the old school giant 4 musketeer deck that was actually popular before the old bridge spam / 3 musketeer heal meta. It's really strong defensively. As a matter of fact, look at Toby's towers right now, guys. He's taken almost no damage to his towers, and the Mini PEKKA just doing such a good job defensively. Of course, not against his mother, the big PEKKA. Big PEKKA. I gotta bleep that out. Okay. So anyway, even incoming in the lane, we're just gonna use the Ice Golem to distract and kite as much as possible. I feel like Ice Golem is definitely back inside the meta. He was never totally gone, but we did see at statsroyale.com his usage rates kind of took a little bit of a dip in the last meta. After the balance changes, I think the Ice Golem's going to be better than ever. He does a really good job just for kiting things such as a Mini PEKKA, such as bats, and destroying them with his Ice Vortex as well. So, you know, just a really good card. And you can see in this deck, even though he ended up taking a little bit of damage to that left tower, once you get to double elixir time with this deck, that's when it really shines. So let's talk about single elixir time versus double elixir time with this deck. Single elixir time, you have a couple things that you could do. By the way, Toby is on the top of this match. Your first priority obviously is, let's say it together, to pump up. That's the first play that Toby makes here, and I think this is what, his 18th win of the 20-win challenge with this deck. So and he's going against Pompeo's balloon deck that I actually, man, I'm doing a lot of self-serving shoutouts here. I actually shared this deck about 3 videos ago if you're interested in how to play the deck on the bottom here, guys. I think one sub was maybe the guards wasn't in it. I don't know. Anyway, back to the main deck. We're going to be pumping up early. Pump up and then protect your pump. Protecting your pump is paramount. There's a lot of P's there. Protecting your pump is paramount to having success with this deck. So pump and then try to cycle to your next pump. In between, you're going to be defending and you're going to be protecting your first pump, right? So you can see here, everything's working out pretty well here for Toby. He does take a little bit of chip damage on that left tower and that left pump, but it's okay. We're already at 1 minute, a little bit over 1 minute into this match. So at this point, what we want to do is just kind of chip away, and we're concentrating on what the opponent is playing. The first thing, the most important thing that you want to keep track of is what spells do they have. We have 4 musketeers in this deck. That is a lot of value potentially to be giving your opponent, either with lightning or with poison or with rocket. So we want to identify what spells the opponent has and when they have them in hand. Now, you don't have to necessarily count cards. It's not like we're going to be counting cards at a blackjack table. It requires a huge, high amount of skill. Instead, what we want to do is just kind of sit back and say, okay, we want to make a mental note when the opponent plays that fireball, when they play that lightning, and then we know now is our opening if the situation suits us. In other words, if we have the elixir situation is right, if we have the elixir advantage, or if we have the proper cards in hand. So that's when you can play your 3 musketeers after they use their lightning against your pumps. Think of the pumps, just as with any 3 musketeer deck, as almost a lightning bait from your opponent, or a rocket bait. So if your opponent, even in single elixir time during the first 2 minutes of your match, if your opponent uses the lightning then, it's not a bad move to play your 3 musketeers, knowing that they don't have lightning in cycle, and that will help you cycle back to another pump. It's kind of like a soft push. Now let's talk about how to combo tanks with your musketeers. You have 2 tanks in this deck. You have the giant and you have the ice golem. So it's a really good 1-2 punch. You can use your ice golem, only cost 2 elixir as a mini tank for your 3 musketeers, or you can use your giant as a big heavy tank to 1 musketeer or 2 musketeers, depending on what your opponent has in hand. This deck really doesn't have any incredibly awful matchups. I guess the most challenging matchups would be a Lava Loon Lightning or a Golem Lightning, essentially decks where you're going to want to use your 3 musketeers heavily on defense to stop a really big giant push, but your opponent has lightning. In those situations, it's really important to play your 3 musketeers, if they have lightning, to play them all together in the vicinity of the crown tower, and then using the ice golem as a lightning rod to protect one of your 3 musketeers. In that scenario, you'll still have 2 musketeers left alive, and then if you want to, after the lightning is out of hand of your opponent, you can cycle back to your 3rd musketeer, your single musketeer card. It's getting confusing with all these musketeers, guys. Then you'll have 3 musketeers back to better defend. That's how you're going to play Lava Loon Lightning and Golem Lightning, excuse me. So now let's go against this deck here. Let's do a little bit of play-by-play. We can start the giant at the bridge after a successful defense if you think that your opponent doesn't have a great counter in hand. It didn't really work out too well for Toby here. He runs into a PEKKA, but a good bats play. Bats are so strong now. It's so weird how adding 1 little bat made bats from being kind of a lackluster card to a real powerhouse, especially defensively. Bats are a really important part of this deck. What if you don't have bats, or you never leveled your bats up because they previously kind of sucked, right? So what you want to do is you can sub in minions for bats. I would sub in minions. It makes the deck up to 4.4, so it's a rather expensive deck, but you still have a lot of defensive power, and you do have that pump to help supplement the heavy cost of the deck. So here we go, 3 musketeers all being played in 1 lane here for Toby in the right side. Let's see what he does. Friendly battle was canceled. Man, I love having you guys as my friends, but you spam me with requests quite a bit, guys. So I apologize to all my viewers for having to deal with the friendly battles requested and submitted in all my videos, but I think it's worth it to have you guys as friends, my subscribers. For those of you who don't know, I send out my friends link the first day of the season, the first video of each new season, for you guys to be my friend and to play along with me. I mostly do that for 2v2, to be your teammate instead of go against you guys. So for right now, I'm not accepting a lot of those requests. I'm really focused on trying to get 20 wins myself. 16 wins, not too bad. It was better than I suspected that I would do. So pretty happy about that. Anyway, let's go back to the deck here, guys. We took down that right tower, and now it's a Hog Lightning PEKKA E-Wiz deck. Another pretty interesting newish meta deck. We haven't really talked about the mini PEKKA, but the reason being is because his use is pretty obvious, right? He's a tank chopper. He's a really good defensive card, whether it be against that golem or that giant or even that bandit or something, or a hog rider. He has a lot of versatility. It's interesting because the Night Witch, who's actually still pretty good, a video on that coming tomorrow on the Night Witch, but the Night Witch served the role of the mini PEKKA so well because her DPS was so incredibly high pre-nerf, but now that the mini PEKKA got the buff and the Night Witch got the nerf, it's added that flexibility to actually use the mini PEKKA in a lot of good decks. People don't remember that mini PEKKA was one of the best cards in the entire game before the Night Witch came along. Shanghai Tournament, I've said this a few videos, so I'm sorry for repeating myself, but it's worth repeating. The Shanghai Tournament, which was the biggest cash tournament ever in Clash Royale history thus far. Pretty soon it won't be anymore, right? But that tournament, out of the 16 decks in the finals, 15 of 16 decks had mini PEKKA, and I think that mini PEKKA is great again. I really do. So a good giant over there placed in the pocket by Toby, taking care of distracting that king tower while that final musketeer took it down there. So why do we have 4 musketeers? Well, essentially, it's pretty obvious, right? We can use that solo musketeer just to defend with this deck. She can be a good defensive option and a good bait option. Sometimes if you have a pump down, or if you have a pump down, the opponent will use their fireball on the single musketeer in the pump and the tower, presenting them really good value. However, they probably don't know yet that you actually also have 3 musketeers. So once you bait out that fireball, bait out that lightning, well, they're going to be in trouble unless they can cycle back to it before you can. That's a good thing to mention, right? What if you're playing a very fast cycle deck, like a hog cycle, for example, and your opponent can outcycle your 3 musketeers with their lightning, say? By the way, opponent just used lightning right there. We have 3 musketeers in hand. I think Toby's probably going to play them. Is he? Yes, he is. And he's doing exactly what I was going to talk about. He's playing a fast cycle deck, so he's going to play his 3 musketeers in front of the king tower, not in back. If you're playing a really slow beatdown deck and you get lightning out of your opponent's hand, well, then you can play your 3 musketeers in back of the tower. If you play them in front of your tower against a cycle deck, even against a cycle deck, the opponent's not going to have enough time to cycle back to lightning and use it. They'll have enough time to cycle back to it with a skeleton, ice spirit, whatever, mini PEKKA, but then they won't have enough elixir left to actually use it against your 3 musketeers. Certainly not use it against all 3 of your 3 musketeers. So let's see how Toby handles the end of this match against a deck that Pong shared. I really need to get Pong back on the channel. He's such a good player, and he has really interesting off-meta decks that he shares with us. So the Pong deck on the bottom, the Toby deck, the no legendary Toby deck on the top, guys. So we're very close to double elixir time, excuse me. He knows the opponent doesn't have lightning in cycles, so it's time to drop the 3 musketeers. Always having that keen awareness of when your opponent's spells are in their hand. Here comes the giant in the pocket. This is a really good maneuver, to quote Tag, when you actually have 1 tower down. Send in the 3 musketeers and then send the giant in the pocket here. So actually a pretty good job defensively by the opponent here, but Toby's going to be able to cycle back to that mini PEKKA on defense. Despite the lightning, 2 chops on the PEKKA will take down that hog. Now he just has to defend for about 30, 40 seconds left in this match. Here comes another 3 musketeer. When we move into double elixir time with this deck, guys, It's almost like a Three Musketeers cycle deck. Of course, I say that kind of loosely. It doesn't have all the cycle cards. You have 2 fast cards, though. You have the Ice Golem and you have the Bats. So if you play your Ice Golem, if you leave your Ice Golem and your Bats to play between your 3 Musketeer drops, you're going to be able to cycle faster to your 3 Musketeers. That's kind of a next level tip for you guys that's kind of hard to grasp. Essentially, you want to be saving your cheap cards to play in between your 3 Musketeers, if possible, in double elixir time, and hopefully you'll come away with a victory like Toby did there. So another huge shout out to TobiSpiritHawk. Make sure you check out his channel and his streams in the description below. I hope you guys enjoy this deck. Most importantly, I'm wishing you to have a lot of fun in the 20 win challenge, guys. Even if you don't get 20 wins, I hope you enjoy yourselves. If you're raging, turn the mute button on, okay? Huge shout out to Bren Chong. He does a lot for me, does a lot for the community. Can't thank him enough. And as always, take care, guys.